Okay, so I'm gonna go at this from kind of a liberalism point of view with a little bit of realism involved in there, but mostly from the point of view of a liberal. Doing human trafficking and human trafficking as a global issue because it's the third largest criminal industry in the world, outranked only by drugs and arms. It's also in every developing and developed country. They're all involved, and it's not subjected to race or religion or social class or economic standing. Trafficked individuals are usually, but not confined to girls between the age of 8 and 18, but can be younger and can be older. Well, it's obvious what adverse effects it has on the individual. There are additional impacts on the human security as a collective international concern. They are, one, threats to border integrity, because the majority of people that are transported are not, they're under false pretenses. And second, because there's threats to human health with disease, especially HIV. Third is threats to national and international security, since it's believed that many of the world's largest sex traffickers are connected to organized crime groups. And lastly, threats to the very health of our global human conscience, because it's essentially a form of slavery. There's a ton of NGOs participating in eradicating human trafficking. A few to name them is Free the Slaves, or the Polaris Project, or Not for Sale. But the biggest IGO player is the United Nations and its branches. The branch of the United Nations that deals with human trafficking is United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. It specifically handles human trafficking. There's a large breakdown of communication that is involved with this, because it's virtually the only IGO player on this battlefield, in which more than 147 states have agreed to sign their protocol. But most individuals are never identified and never assisted or implicated, for that matter, because of the sheer magnitude of human trafficking saturation in virtually every country. UNODC is mostly focused on awareness building, strengthening of partnerships and coordination, rather than having a comprehensive strategy to like eradicate the criminal aspect of it, because it's that global. It's a constant struggle because of the heavily miscommunicating information and cooperation, acting between individuals in a really unethical form of market capitalism. Because it's like a corporation, and although the legal state has been set by the protection provided by human rights treaties within its international organizations, the majority of enforcement will be forced to remain at the state level. Because states have the power, whether it's unilaterally or multilaterally in this particular circumstance, to interact with other states and to undertake action for offending issues. According to liberalism, it's understood that injustice, war, and aggression are the product of corrupt social institutions and misunderstandings, and the many interests of the state prevent current action taken to lessen the severity of human trafficking on a global scale. So, in essence, human trafficking is essentially a corrupted form of market capitalism born from supply and demand, and it's continually unaddressed because of the many interests of the state, which ultimately hold the power, and the interests of the state do not usually involve human rights issues. But my whole thesis that I've derived from this whole thing is, although realist perspective would say that problems related to human rights are not prioritized because countries are preoccupied with each other with more pressing issues such as security, survival, power relations between the states. But I personally argue from a liberal perspective that by addressing international relations, this international human trafficking, security is increased, and therefore can and should be prioritized. If countries that are detrimentally affected by trafficking place a greater priority on addressing the root of the cause of this issue, then the decrease in the flow of human trafficking can influence other more prioritized issues, such as economic development and security. And that's pretty much all I have for you. Thanks!